Okay. So it's still in morning. Very good morning, everyone. Myself Kshitij Singh Rathore from School of Physical Sciences, NISER, doing my PhD under the supervision of Professor Vanka Vedanta. Would like to present my short project on this exchange engineer hybrid modes for anion spin pumping in YG CFB heterostructure. So to the some audience who might not be knowing about NISER Bhubaneswar. This is a beautiful campus located in the heart of Odisha in the Bhubaneswar. Okay. So to begin with a short introduction, the majority of the audience would be aware of the electronic space charge current and some the spin current waves, which is used in the spintonics also. However, in these both the conditions, the conduction electrons are present in the system, which are results in the Joule heating of the devices. So to the now, the generation has come up with a new base of spin current, which is based on the spin waves, which are called magnons. Transfer of angular momentum in these spin waves current can be studied using these Landau-Lissard-Gilbert equations in between these waves, where you can modulate the spin wave current using the modification of the amplitude and the phase, and whether control the spin wave transport control in these basically devices kind of structures. So in general, what people use is to put the platinum on the top of this their stacks to increase the spin pumping signal and detect them. However, these platinums are quite costly in their nature. So to come up over this, recently people has used permalayer YG systems kind of structure where you can find the increased spin pumping even at the lower scale of the temperature, which has gone up to some significant data, which is the reason is behind this system would be the Magnon-Magnon kind of coupling modes present in the system. The YG modes of the uniform modes of the YIG gets coupled with the permalloy modes and increase the spin mixing conductance and interfacially the spin pumping in the system. However, in this permalloy system, we know majorly the self-induced ISHG also takes place in this kind of system. So what we have proposed is to use this cobalt iron boron instead of the permalloy, as the recent reports have shown that the YGCFB system is prone to give very low loss hybrid materials for this long distance transport, for which we have used some of our experimental techniques, like for pulse laser deposition to deposit the YIG films, working to deposit this cobalt iron boron films, and some of the characterization techniques. And for the magnetic characterization, we have used the CPW-based FMR, where you pass some of the radio wave frequency current in a CPW-based FMR, and where you place the flip chip manner and sample in your external magnetic field. These radio wave frequency, when matches exactly with the precision of frequency of dynamics of magnetization, they produces resonance, and the loss in this energy of the resonance is then can detected in the diode detector, which is shown in there in this form. In our setup, we see it is in a form of a derivative where the peak to peak distance of is called the delta H and the zero crossing point is called H resonance. This S resonance is then plotted against the frequency to extract out the gamma parameter from the Kittel plot. And this gamma parameter is used in the delta H, which is frequency plot, to extract out the alpha, which is a Gilbert damping parameter used in our spintonics and mostly researches. So we have fabricated these thin films in this manner, like for the C1, C2, C3, where we have grown the wick films on the GG substrate for 600 nanometer cylinder, and they varied the cobalt iron boron film with a thickness of 10, 20, and 50 with a top capping of copper 3 nanometer to protect these samples from atmosphere. And parallelly, we have also grown the reference samples of the single layer YAG and the single layer cobalt iron boron. So these are some of the external structural characterization that we have done, where you can see in the first plot, the perfect Gaussian form of a YIGS has been marked as hash, as shown over here, and the star mark is the peak of the substrate GGG. However, the peak of the cobalt iron boron is missing from this structure because might be we have not done the sure the with the TM we are waiting the data, but these films might be amorphous in nature. And from the reciprocal space mapping, we can see that these films are going in coherent way in the one direction with a very less strain present in this film. And when we did some magnetic characterization with the FMR measurements, we found that the small modes of very less intensity of CFB were present over there. And in compared to the very high intense YIG mode, which was of a uniform mode, were there shown in this blue way. So, and this higher resonancing mode, which you are showing is higher modes, spin waves modes of YIG samples. So we see this gap between the CFB and the YIG goes very lesser when we increase the thickness of the film, that is C2 in this room temperature FMR. The mode goes very much closer to the YIG modes, making sure that there is some kind of interfacial coupling, but which is kind of getting varied with these thickness dependent. With further increase in the thickness, you can see there is some additional modes coming up in the picture. With the top view, I can show you over here. These modes, which is we think could be of perpendicular spin the modes of the CFB samples when goes closer to the X samples, and then the goes a bit disappears to some conclusive evidence over this region of spectra frequency and the field for these room temperature measurements. Along with these, we also did some inverse spin Hall effect measurements, that same room temperature measurements. For the single layer sample of cobalt and boron and for the YIG, we found that there was almost a negligible kind of a spin pumping voltage present over there. However, for the bilayer samples at the peak of CFP as well as the peak of FMR peak of a YIG, we found there is a significant high spin pumping voltage present in the system. So we think that there must be some kind of interfacial exchange coupling present over there in the system, because of which these spin pumping has been enhanced in this bilayer kind of heterostructure system. So we further confirm with the power dependent measurement whether the system has been showing this spin pumping voltage is coming because of any spin pumping or any AMR or AHE effects, which we have seen over here that the linear increase in both the CFB and the YG peaks confirms these samples shows the high spin pumping signals, which has been varied with the frequency thickness. And you can see the decrease in the monotonicity of the YG clearly, maybe because the CFB structure coming up the stack may decrease the Magellan propagation and may scatter the inverse spin Hall effect signals. Further, has done the low temperature measurements for this kind of system, where we found that YIG samples be showing there is a decrease in resonance point with the decrease in the temperature scales of 100 to 400 Kelvin, and the delta edge also increasing a bit. However, from the comparison from the single layer YIG to the bilayer sample of YIG, when it's grown with this long CFB, the decrease in the edge resonance is very sharp, as well as the delta edge is also quite has been increased quite sharply as compared to their single layer samples. The same behavior was seen also for the single layer of CFB, but the shift is not so prominent as of the YIG. So you may think of a point where the CFB may come close to the YIG signal, and there could be a kind of a coupling between these system may exist something around this. For this, we did some damping measurements for all those kind of temperature that is 100 to 400 in the scale of 100 Kelvin, and we found the damping values to be increasing for both CFB and the YIG in the scale of high scale like kind of structure. So for this, we have plotted the spin mixing conductance plot for these samples, where we see there is quite a high significant amount of increase and enhancement in the spin mixing conductance of the YIG single layer sample at the 100 Kelvin of the scale. So when we will go from 400 to 100 Kelvin, we found this enhancement in the spin mixing conductance, as we have also seen in the past literatures that there is an enhancement of mixing conductance may lead to a thought that there might be some of the interfacial exchange coupling between the system happening, which cause of which there is an going on enhancement of spin pumping. So for this, we have observed kind of in depth for these modes, how they are behaving in this form. So for the reference single layer of silicon CFP, we saw this star mark and the hash mark mode of first and the second of a kind for a single layer CFP. And similarly, for a single layer of YG, we see over here this first mode, which is marked in zeta, and the beta form in the second uniform mode for YG. So when we are clubbed together these YG and CFB samples, we see that there is presence of these kind of structure, where in the zoom view we can see this star and the zeta modes were similarly present over there as they were in the single layer reference sample. However, if you see this hash and the beta mode marked over there, they go close to each other and form a kind of a hybrid mode of structure over there in this long range of 200 to 250 millitesla of the region. So we estimate that this could be because of a hybridization of the mode, that there is an enhancement in the delta H, and thus the spin mixing conductance has been enhanced. So these structure of YGCFB must be giving a high spin pumping due to the interfacial exchange coupling between the system, and which could be of a Magnon kind in system, which we can confirm with further analysis in the system and later on. So at the end, I would like to summarize the thing that strong spin pumping enhancement is seen in this YGCSB heterostructure in compared to the reference single layer, and this hybridization of mode between the YIG, the uniform mode, and the cobalt iron bone PSSW modes drives this enhanced spin pumping and at the level at the lower scale of the temperature, which could be useful in this magnonic devices kind of structure. And we have also confirmed this interfacial exchange coupling from our squid data and this damping measurements, etc. So at the end, I would like to thank my PhD supervisor, Professor Shubhanka Vedanta, my lab members, the funding agencies. No, thank you.
Thank you for the nice talk. Does anyone have questions? There is a question from the chat. Could you explain a little more about the mode of bilayer?
Mode of while these hybrid modes.
Yes, it is. Am I audible to you?
Sure. Yes, yes. Sure.
Yeah.
In this C1 sample, if you see over here, we have this structure for 100 Kelvin. There is a frequency range of from 7.5 to 11.5, where we have measured this frequency data, and in the field of 100 to 50 millitesla. So here in the starting region, you might be seeing the same mode as the star and the zeta mode, which were there in the single layer reference sample also. The star and zeta are present over there in this single layer in this initial part. But on the later part, this CFP secondary mode, which was marked as hash, get nearly coupled with the beta mode, which was a uniform mode of YIG. And these modes kind of produces a hybrid mode. If you see these hash mode comes very close to the beta proximity, and then they get a bit far apart later on. So this is a kind of a signature of a reference for the Magnon coupling of a kind of signature, but we will further confirm with plotting them with the mode of H resonance versus frequency independently.
Yeah. And just a little bit more about this, like then how you
So
estimate like what is the line width in these hybrid situations? Like delta H
that
value, how you estimate it?
we have fitted them with the 4 peak Lorentzian equation, and correspondingly from the single layer where the variation is there, accordingly we
Mhm.
have seen the H resonance behavior change and then confirm that the which mode is going towards the which end.
Okay. Just one small question is like, have you like considered like there is a, since you have a form a bilayer, so
Yeah,
do you think there is a spin wave resonance mode occur at the interface?
it could be. We have not confirmed it, but it could be possible.
Okay, because what I have studied, it's usually come from the perpendicular spin wave mode, but standing wave mode. But I don't know. Maybe you
Yeah, yeah,
could
sure,
give
it can
some
be. It
information.
can be there. I'm not sure about that.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you,
Thank you.
Kshitij.
Yeah.
Does anyone have questions? Uh, so let's thank the speaker again. Thank you for the nice presentation.
Thank you.